The two biggest world titles that you could win in jiu-jitsu, I won twice. I would say I've always had a love-hate relationship with competing. I never wrestled in high school, never wrestled in middle school, just wrestled in mat clubs all throughout my youth. I never did it for money. There was no money in it. Like, it wasn't even a thought in my head back then.
Right.
You know, it was like, I'm going to do this and get rich off this. I can legit make someone quit. And I also fell in love with the idea of having a dojo, a gym, I fell in love with like tying my belt, putting gi on. I was like, like Superman put on his cape kind of thing.
Hell
you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I was like, that's what made me fall in love with it. And I remember at an early age when I said I want to do this for the rest of my life, along with that, I told myself I want to master this. I want to open my own dojo, and I want to become a world champion one day.
Wow, and you hit all three.
And I hit all three.
That's awesome,
I'm super proud to say I hit all three. 3 goals I set for myself when I was a kid.
I'm Mike Izzo, and welcome back to the J&B Body Works podcast, a conversation show where we talk to guests about cars, life, and everything in between.
We have one of the deadliest men in the world on today, the one, the only, the Westchester resident, JT Torres.
What's up, brother?
What's going on, guys? Appreciate you guys having me on the show tonight.
Thank you.
for sure.
Anytime. So I've been a longtime fan of yours
Thank
since
you.
I started
Thank you.
jiu-jitsu. I like no gi more than gi because I have a
Perfect.
wrestling background. So I first got into it. I'm watching a bunch of videos. I didn't know that much about you, but I just was happening to watch a video on you as I'm outside of Chopped in Rye waiting to get a salad. So my sister pulls up. I go inside, and I go in, and you're there.
No way.
And I was like, I don't know anything about this guy. I don't know if he's from here. And could this be like, I didn't even know who you are.
Right.
So I still have it up on my phone. So I look at my sister. I'm like, yo, is this that guy? And she was like, no. And I'm looking and I'm like, no, it's 1,000% that guy. So I leave. I find out you're from Westchester and everything.
Yep.
So I want to dive into that first. Where are you from originally?
Born and raised in New York, originally from the Bronx. So I
Okay.
was born in the Bronx, and I lived there until I was a kid.
Where in the Bronx?
Couldn't tell you exactly. I
Okay.
know I was born in the Lady of Mercy Hospital, and I
Okay.
went to PS 103.
All right.
And then after 5th grade, we moved up to Rockland County, New York.
Where?
Congers.
Okay.
And then I was there until middle school, high school. After high school, did a little bit of community college and at RCC, Rockland Community College.
Okay.
And after that, I started bouncing around all over the country.
All right.
Yeah.
And was your first introduction into combat sports, was that wrestling?
Actually, it was karate. So
Okay.
I first started with karate in the Bronx. It was just like a random school. And I was like, I want to do that. So my parents put me in for a class. It was like a class or two that I tried. And after that, shortly after that, when we moved up to Rockland County.
Okay.
My cousin had moved up to Rockland County before we did. And he had started at a martial arts school in Congers. So I was like, I want to try that out. I want to do it. And then I jumped in soon afterwards. And that's where I began my martial arts career in a karate school. First in the Bronx, but really in Rockland County.
Am I mistaken? Are you a black belt in karate as well?
I am a black belt in karate, yeah.
sick.
Does
Yeah.
that do
Yeah.
anything for you?
Yeah. No.
Okay. Do you still have the black belt?
It's somewhere in my closet. Yeah,
Okay.
somewhere in the closet.
Was your first grappling, was that wrestling or was that jiu-jitsu?
It was actually jiu-jitsu. So funny story, my karate teacher was actually a blue belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu at the time.
Whoa.
So
When was this?
this was like early 2000s, I got to say.
Okay.
Maybe, early 2000s. Has to be around that time. And he was like ahead of his time, I got to say. He was a karate teacher who knew karate wasn't just the answer. Like, he was actually fighting back then. It wasn't called MMA. It was NHB, no holds barred,
barred,
right?
yeah.
So he was all, fighting, and he was actively fighting. So he knew there was more to the game than just karate and standing in front of a mirror and doing katas and all that stuff. So he told me early on, like, listen, we got to put you in different disciplines, right? So he suggested to my parents, to my dad, like, listen, there's a mat club at South High School, Clarkstown South High
Yep.
School. He's like, sign him up. So I started wrestling at that mat club twice a week, I think, since I was a kid, since I was 10, 11. And I fell in love with wrestling. Like, I've always been a physical person. Like, ever since I was a kid, I would try baseball. So, I'm Puerto Rican, Dominican, right? My grandfather on my mom's side,
Okay?
Yeah, okay. You already know. He was actually like a semi-pro baseball player.
As they all are.
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
Dominican male is a
Yeah.
semi-pro baseball player. I
Right,
found out.
exactly. So he really pushed play baseball. So what I'm trying to get to is that I tried Little League. I did try basketball and all that, and was never too good at it. But whenever it came around to just, wrestling with my friends outside, playing around, I was always pretty good at it. So I was always gravitated towards combat sports. So when I started wrestling at the mat club, I was like, well, I love this. This is awesome. Really good. And I kept up with it. And then at the same time, my karate teacher would sprinkle a little bit of jiu-jitsu in as much as he could. He was a blue belt. This is talking almost 30 years ago now, right?
Rudimentary stuff.
Yeah. But it gave me like a good foundation, I could say. And then, the story continues like this, right? So high school comes along. By the time I go into high school.
Where'd you go to high school?
Clarkstown North.
Okay.
I already had my black belt.
What year did you
karate.
graduate?
2007.
Okay.
2007, yeah. So by the time I go into high school, the summer of going into high school, I'm like, I want to play basketball. I want to try almost like I don't want to say I was done with martial arts, but I was like, I want to try something new. Let's try to play basketball. I'm not that tall, as you guys can see. 5'7", 5'8" on a good day. I made it to the final rounds of tryouts, right? And I got cut. And my dad was like, hey, why don't you go back to the martial arts studio and do something to stay active, right? And that's when I started really diving deeper into jiu-jitsu. So I already got my black belt in karate. Let me master something else, right? And then I started diving deeper into jiu-jitsu and fell in love, man.
So you were not a varsity wrestler?
I never wrestled in high school, never wrestled in middle school, just wrestled in mat clubs all throughout my youth.
Did you get a good base of how to keep your weight and body position? Like, did you get any benefit from that translated or not really?
100%.
Okay.
100%. The two biggest world titles that you could win in jiu-jitsu, I won ADCC twice, 2017, 2019. If you go back and watch my matches, I out-wrestle everybody.
Yeah.
Right? So, wrestling is a big part of my game. Like I said, I never wrestled formally in school, but I would always wrestle in these mat clubs in New York, New Jersey. During the summertime, I would wrestle with the kids that would come home from college. So my wrestling was always pretty solid, and I would have coaches tell me, like, you would have made a really good wrestler if you would gone down.
Are you still hitting clubs like that? Like, are you going to the NYAC or the Edge in Jersey or anything like that?
No, I'm not. I'm just so busy now, running my gym and, doing everything that comes along with that. But I do have a really good coach under our roof at Essential. His name's John Marsh. He's been someone I've been working with.
The videos.
Yeah.
You get a lot of working with that guy.
Oh, yeah. He's a savage, man. So we run wrestling within our program, our jiu-jitsu program at our gym. So I'm always actively still working my takedowns, my stand-up, and all that stuff.
So
really quick, does he do your strength and conditioning too?
He does.
Okay.
He
I've
does.
seen that.
He does. He's an absolute savage. And himself, being a wrestler, someone who spent time at the Olympic Training Center.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he understands what you have to do to get stronger, get your cardio better for a grappler, right? So once I started working with him, it really made a huge difference in as far as conditioning and strength and all that stuff.
Is there a big difference between wrestling for wrestling and wrestling for jiu-jitsu?
Big time, huge difference. I always give the example, like if I were to wrestle right now, if I were to wrestle a really legit wrestler in a wrestling match, I would get my ass whooped, right? But if I were to wrestle them in the jiu-jitsu world, it'd be different, right? Because I can work the neck as they shoot in. I can work, shoulder, locks and stuff like that. And
Or traps.
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. All that good stuff. So when I sprinkle that in, it throws people off. And, I have certain takedowns that work well for me that are unorthodox, I guess, when you can say, when it comes to wrestling.
Right.
Another big thing that people overlook sometimes is that we don't wear shoes. Right. When we
Right.
wrestle, we wear wrestling shoes, right? When we wrestle with jiu-jitsu, we're barefoot. So when someone shoots a single leg, a double leg, it's easier for us to slip the leg out. So when we get a pure wrestler coming in to wrestle with us, at the gym, they're like, shit, it's so much harder to hit takedowns
to
without
that
shoes on.
Yeah.
And it's so true. So I've wrestled in mat clubs, but with the idea of getting my wrestling good for jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Right. So
Always.
that's where it made the biggest difference for me.
So when did you decide, at what point in your journey with jiu-jitsu did you decide, or did you realize that, shit, I kind of have something here. Like, I need to take this seriously.
Very early on.
Really?
Very early on. Like when I first, I would say around the age of 14, 15 years old, around 2005 is when or 2004, somewhere around that time, is when I started diving deep into jiu-jitsu, right? And I fell in love with it. I was like, man, this shit works, right? Like I was used to doing karate, like punching and kicking and all that stuff, and a little bit of, wrestling too, which is awesome up to that point. When it came to jiu-jitsu, it's super hands-on. And I remember hitting my first submission in a live roll. I hit a triangle. And the person was forced to tap. They tap all right, I gotta let go. I was like, damn, that's crazy.
You remember that moment?
I remember that moment. I can legit make someone quit.
Wow.
Right? Where
A lot of
wrestling,
power.
yeah, a lot of power. Wrestling gave me that same feel too. You can pin somebody down and all that too. But making someone tap with a choke, I was like, man, like this is wild.
Right. Well, because like the next step in pinning somebody is just like them flopping around. But
Yeah,
the next
100%.
step in that triangle is
100%.
something a little different.
100%. So I right away, I felt the power and the effectiveness of jiu-jitsu. I'm like, this works. I need to learn more. How do I do more? And I fell in love. At that point, I'm like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't know how, but I'm going to do this for the rest of my life.
So what was the feeling that made you say, I want to do it for the rest of my life? Was it the constant growth that jiu-jitsu gives people who are jiu-jitsu players, or did you fall in love with competing?
I would say I've always had a love-hate relationship with competing, right? Which I think is pretty normal.
A lot of stress.
Yeah, it's a lot of stress, man.
I
It's
used
a lot
to
of
throw up
stress
before wrestling
Oh
matches.
yeah, it's a lot of stress. I would say what made me fall in love with it was just the idea of knowing that you can really control somebody, submit them, and I also fell in love with the idea of having a dojo, a gym. I fell in love with like tying my belt, putting gi on. I was like, I don't know. I felt like I don't know,
Man's club kind of.
Yeah, like
it's
like
cool,
Superman
yeah.
put on his cape kind of thing.
Hell
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? I was
hell
like, that's what made me fall in love with it. And I remember at an early age when I said I want to do this for the rest of my life. Along with that, I told myself a few things. I had a couple goals I set on early on. I want to master this and get my black belt in this. I want to open my own dojo, and I want to become a world champion one day.
Wow, and you hit all three.
And I hit all three.
That's
I'm
awesome,
super proud to say I hit all three. 3 goals I set for myself when I was a kid. So that's what really made me fall in love with it. Those ideas that I set for myself early on.
How long did it take you to get your black belt?
Quick, man, quick. I started training jiu-jitsu full blast.
Where did
15.
you start?
I started with the karate teacher in Congress, right? Now, around that same time, my parents split, right? Which was a really rough time of my life, right? For anyone, right? Your parents split. I was 14 years old, so like I know what's going on. I'm like, oh man, this sucks. So that also pushed me to dive deeper into jiu-jitsu. I was like, I want to keep my mind off of that. Parents fighting, not getting along, not good. More jiu-jitsu. But the way life works out, my dad moves to New Jersey, right? He moves to North Bergen County, New Jersey. He lives in Lodi. And we arrange where every other weekend I go visit him along with my brother and sister. And, it sucks and it is what it is. But, something good came out of that. He goes, hey, down a couple blocks away from my apartment, I saw a jiu-jitsu academy. Maybe we can go check it out when you come by this weekend. I said, yeah, let's do it. Absolutely. When we went, there was a black belt running that academy, which, up to that point, I've only seen a blue belt, a purple belt. And
Right.
every once in a while, Hoist Gracie will come around to the karate school because my first karate teacher was actually affiliated with Hoist.
No way.
Right? And that's who I got my blue belt from, actually. Hoist Gracie.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
wild.
pretty sick.
Yeah, it is. But up to that point, seeing even a purple belt at that point was really rare, right? And today we got social media, we got the internet itself is just wild. It's just blown everything up and connecting with people. We didn't have that. I didn't have that around that time, right? I don't even know if Facebook was out or not even Facebook, MySpace. I think I was on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I don't even know if it was
Top
around,
8.
right? Yeah, AOL. Like,
What was your song?
Yeah, exactly, right? I was still looking for ringtones for my phone.
Let's say what the song was.
Yeah. When I walked into the gym, there was a black belt, and his name was Louis Ventiloro, an American guy. Which again, another rare thing.
Rare, yeah.
There was an American guy who was a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was like, whoa. I was like, who is this guy? And I started training there on the weekends when I go visit my dad. And then my dad saw how into it I was, right? How much I fell in love with it. So he committed to coming by New York, picking me up from Rockland, taking me over to the gym throughout the week. And I started training
That's the
more
man.
and more and more. Yeah, he is, man. He is. And he committed to picking me up, throughout the week, on the weekends, and taking me to the gym and then back to my mom's. And that's really where I started growing with my jiu-jitsu. And the gym's called Performance Jiu-Jitsu. It's in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, still there.
Shout out.
I got my purple belt and my brown belt from Lou Ventiloro. Those belts came quick, right? So like you were asking me how long did it take me to get my black belt. So around the age of 15 is when I really committed to the jiu-jitsu path. And at 19 years old, I got my black belt.
Oh.
I got my black belt pretty quick. But which nowadays you're seeing a little bit more often, people getting their black belts quick. I'm still one of the quickest. But nowadays, the kids, the resources they have are unbelievable.
Vast.
Like I was still going to Barnes and Nobles and looking through grappling magazines and trying to memorize the techniques.
Jiu-jitsu for dummies.
Yeah. Like these are the things I had to do. I was just obsessed, man. So anything I can get my hands on to study. I remember being in school, like during a wintertime, like a winter day like this, I'll have my jacket over my desk or over the back of my chair. I'd be working Kimuras on the sleeves of my jacket, and the teacher would be like, "Hey, Mr. Torres, what are you doing?" You know, like I was just obsessed with it. So every living moment I had to think about it, to drill it, to put my hands on it, I was on it, man.
The speed that you excelled, do you think it was your work ethic? Because you obviously have like a crazy work ethic.
Yeah.
But do you think there was a lot of natural talent involved? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a combo of the two. I do think I was a natural athlete. But I got to say, now that I run my own gym, I've seen people come and go. I built my gym off my competitive career. So naturally, I attracted people. I attract people who have the same ambitions or have the same goals that I had, right? Exactly. And I've had a lot of young potential walking through the door who are very athletic, fast, strong, whatever you want to call it. But when it came down to grind, some people are just not willing to grind like I grind, So I think the biggest thing I got to give it up to, which is my work ethic, man. Like I was willing to grind. I got to say, like I never did it for money. There was no money in it. Like it wasn't even a thought in my head back then.
Right.
It was like, I'm going to do this and get rich off this. I'm going to do this and make tons of money. I didn't even think about it at all. Like that's how crazy I was about it in the beginning. I'm still crazy about it, but I'm older now. I know I got to pay taxes and bills and this and that. You know what I'm saying?
Taxes.
So, yeah, in the beginning, it was just, 100% drive and my work ethic that really pushed me to that next level, I feel.
So if you wouldn't mind for the viewers, people who aren't into jiu-jitsu, explaining a little bit about that top tier level of competition. So you mentioned
what
the
is
ADCC,
right?
ADCC, I would say, is the Olympics of the grappling world, the submission grappling world, jiu-jitsu world. It's an event that only happens every 2 years. You can only be invited or you got to win the trials. So to get there, it's the best of the best.
So hold on. So they invite a handful of people, and then the rest of the spots are bracket, tournament.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I want to say it's half and half. So like half of the bracket, it's people who are invited, and the other half are people who won the trials all around the world. And the people that they invite are usually people who have won trials in the past, people who have placed at the world championships, or people who had just really good performances. Or sometimes they'll try to invite someone who's outside of the realm of jiu-jitsu who would put a good showing. So sometimes I remember one year I competed. They invited Benson Henderson, who was at one point the UFC champ, solid wrestler, explosive,
champ, whatever.
Yeah, so sometimes they'll invite guys like that too, which makes sense. We'll bring more eyes to
more buzz
to the event. Like like MMA fans will come watch.
How did he do?
I think he did pretty well, actually. He put on a good match. I think he ended up losing second round or first round, one of the two, but it was a good match. He fought, I remember, Octavio Souza, who's a gi world champion, not ADCC world champion. Octavio was actually a silver medalist at ADCC, and it was a scrap. It was a really good scrap, actually.
Impressive.
But so sometimes they'll bring people in like that. I think the last ADCC, they were trying to invite Bo Nickel. That's what I heard. I'm not sure if it's really true or not, but I know.
And how did you get invited the first time, or how did you get involved the first time?
It was a good story, actually. The first time I got invited, I never won the trials, right? But I did compete in trials. So this has to be like around 2009, I think. And they had the East Coast trials in New Jersey. And I signed up for the trials. And I remember I'm like 4 or 5 matches deep into the trials. Sometimes, it's a huge bracket. So I'm like 4 or 5 matches into it, and I know I get to the semifinals. But the match that I had in the quarterfinals to get to the semifinals was a scrap. Like I remember, if I'm not mistaken,
batteries.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If I remember correctly, the guy that competed in that quarterfinal match was a D2 national champion college wrestling. Right. So he was freaking tough. Right. But again, this is where my mat club experience comes into play. I was able to hang with him on the feet. But anyways, I don't remember his name. I can look it up. But he was mean, right? And going into that tournament, I had a little bit of cauliflower. Like it was.
He did or you did?
I did.
Okay.
And it was flaring up just a little bit, right? It was soft, but it wasn't too bad. This dude just clubbed the shit out of my head for like 10, 15 minutes. Boom, boom,
Dirty.
boom, boom. We were scrapping. But I won. I think I won with a takedown. And then afterwards, I won the match. I walk off the mat, and I walk towards my corner to get water, whatever. And I can just see everyone not making eye contact with me, but making eye contact with my ear, like looking past my head.
It was that bad.
It was that bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And they're like, your ear is pretty fucked up right now.
Oh,
I'm like, what?
shit.
So it was huge. It was huge. It was so bad that even till this day, if you Google JT Torres ear, like
comes
it
right
will
up.
pop up. Yeah, it will pop
Ah.
up. Yeah. So the ear was humongous, and it was so bad that it went past my ear where I had some fill up like in my, I don't know, the temple, but like right by my hairline here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty wild, but I don't care. I'm trying to fucking win this trial and go to ADCC. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how old I was then.
Did you whip the
18,
headband out?
I was down to do that, right? But this is where it gets funny. I walk off the mat. They're like, we need to get this drained. And like, I go to the ref's table. I'm like, hey, do you guys have anyone that can drain? They're like, oh yeah, go see the medic. So I go to see the medic, and this guy that was working the event had no idea what the hell jiu-jitsu was. Like, he just got hired to be there at the event because they needed someone to be there. So he looks at my ear and he's like all freaked out. He's like, how do you do that? I'm like, oh, well, you usually take a syringe, you stick it in, and you pull out the fluid, right? So we go he goes, all right, let's go into the locker room. So we go into the locker room to try to drain my ear, and this guy, for some reason, could not drain my ear. Could not do it. And I've drained my ears before then. So I told him, give me the needle. I'll do it.
Right.
And he was like, I can't do that. I can't permit that on my watch.
I do it all the time.
I'm like, I've done this a million times. He's like, I can't let you do that. I was like, okay, so what do we do? He's like, I said, listen, I'll put headgear on. I'll tape it up. He goes, no. The blood, or it seems like the blood or whatever it is going towards your head, whatever it is. I don't want to mess with that. You have to go to the emergency room. I'm like, no, I'm just going to tape it up. He goes, I'm medically disqualifying you from the event. So he did not let me continue. And like the event, the people running the event, the refs, whoever was in charge at the time was like, yeah, we can't go against the medic or the doctor. It's like, sorry, JT. So I was like, damn, man, that sucks, right? So it is what it is. I didn't even go to the hospital. I went home and my mom did it for me. I was like, yeah, Jesus, man, like this guy.
That's all it was, yeah.
Yeah, So it is what it is, So then fast forward for the actual ADCC event, it was in Nottingham, England, 2011. And I think someone dropped out of the division, injury or whatever it is, so they were looking for a last-minute replacement. So they hit me up. They're looking.
Oh, wow.
We're looking for a last-minute replacement. You put on a really good showing. We would like to have you at the event if you're available. It's in 2 weeks. I would never, especially at that time in my life, never pass up an opportunity.
Yeah,
and even up to that, and at that time, still like I am today, dude, I'm ready to go all year round.
Yeah,
like
that's important.
I'm training, especially then. I was 18, 19, whatever, young. I was a machine. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I go to Nottingham, England, and I compete in my first ADCC World Championship, 2011. I win my first match. I beat this guy named Clark Gracie, right? It was pretty cool. It was like, I got one. Yeah. Then my second match, I lose.
One down, 50 to go.
Yeah, exactly. Then my second match, I lose the second match on not knowing the rules. So there's, in the rule set, half of the match, there's no points.
Okay.
The second half of the match, there's points kick in, right? But one of the things that scores a negative point is pulling guard. So I pulled guard in the second half of the match, not realizing that I couldn't do it. So I lost a negative. I got a negative on my side of the scoreboard. Match goes on. The guy that I competed against in that match was this guy named Leo Vera. He is a world champion, ADCC world champion. So he's experienced. He knows what he's doing. So I gave him an easy Christmas gift there. He was like, I know this guy pull guard. He did what he had to do.
What's his first name?
Leo.
Okay.
Leo Vera. Sick grappler. I actually grew up watching him.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah.
So
So
sick.
competing against him, it was
That
like one
must
of
be
my
weird.
idols. Yeah.
It's a dream.
But I went after him. I tried to kill him, right? He ended up winning by my negative point on my side of the
And
scoreboard.
they do that just to kind of keep the pace going. They don't want you pulling guard and slowing the thing down.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what ended up happening. And then after that, I kept competing. And then the same thing happened. It happens every 2 years. 2013 in China. It was in Beijing, China. Same thing happens. For some reason, I didn't do the trials that, in between those two world championships. I don't know what happened. I couldn't do it, or I don't remember why. But 2013 in China, same thing happens. Someone, falls out of the bracket, whatever, and they hit me up. Hey, can you come out? This and that. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready, man. And I ended up getting bronze medal that year.
Okay.
So
then you're in.
Then you're in. The people who place on the podium get invited back in for the next one. So I kept building up. 2015 comes around. It's the one going down in Brazil. That one.
And this is your third.
That is my third ADCC. Supposed to be my third ADCC, right?
Real quick.
Yeah.
ADCC in Brazil must have been bonkers.
Crazy.
Is it?
Well, I've competed in Brazil before
Is there
that.
some like non-traditional beef with that, or not really?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like there was before then it was 2011. I competed in Brazil, right? And I competed in Brazil at this place called Tijuca Tennis Club in Rio. And it was the Brazilian National Championships. We were at the venue where they used to hold the World Championships. But a few years before that, they moved the World Championships to America because it just started blowing up. They knew it was the right move to bring it to the States. But they still had the Brazilian Nationals. Brazilian Nationals, of course, they're still going to be in Brazil. So I went down. I always wanted to compete in Brazil as a black belt. It was one of my goals. And I'll get back to the ADCC story. But when I went down to Brazil to compete in this event, I was on fire. On fire, man. I remember I submitted everybody up to the finals. Everybody, right? Now, Tijuca Tennis Club, it's not a huge venue, but they got like concrete, almost like steps where people sit on. And then around the mat side, it's a tennis club, so it's where they play tennis. So where they have the court blocked off, it's like metal barricades, right? And I always remember watching the World Championships take place, and the Brazilians will always pound the metal barricades like they're playing the drums, pop, 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 pop. And the energy in the room just looked insane, right? So 2011, I make it to the finals of Brazilian Nationals, and the whole venue goes into this one corner because they put all the final matches on one mat. So the whole venue's here. Fuck. Right? Of course, I'm Puerto Rican, Dominican. I pass as Brazilian, but they know at this point that I'm a gringo, right? I'm a gringo. I'm coming from America.
The threat, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a gringo, so they know I'm not Brazilian. But they
speak Spanish?
I speak Spanish, yeah.
Okay.
I can hold my own. It's not perfect, but I can hold my own. I
speak Portuguese?
I actually started working on my Portuguese. I fell off of it, but I can still speak a little bit, understand a little bit. Yeah, I can get by.
All right.
But they start pounding the metal barricade. I'm like telling myself, oh shit, it's like all those matches I used to watch, like coming up as a blue belt, white belt, like watching the matches. I used to get all the DVDs. That's what I had, DVDs or it was DVDs. I used to watch all the matches back in the, when I was a white belt, blue belt. And I was like, now I'm here. And what I used to watch on those videos, I'm in that moment right now, right? And they're like chanting Brazil, Brazil. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Ended up losing the match, but I actually lost the match to Gilbert Burns.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, it was Gilbert Burns that fought in the finals, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah. And
Gilbert.
Yeah. Listen, all respect to Gilbert. I like Gilbert a lot.
He's a striker now.
Yeah, he's a striker now. But he knew. He saw I was on fire. I submitted everybody up to that point. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with like positions in jiu-jitsu, but he pulled me into 50-50 the whole match. And the whole match we spent in 50-50, which I think is what is hurting gi jiu-jitsu nowadays, right?
What's 50-50? Is that like
50-50?
north-south kind of a deal?
It's basically like, let's say you put your right leg over the top of my right leg, and I lock a figure four, then you lock a figure four.
Okay.
So you're like
we're stuck
feet fighting. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in
was
gi,
that popular then?
when you want to slow somebody down and
Okay.
try to avoid them from doing anything crazy, yeah.
But like leg locks weren't as popular. And like knee
I
bars.
mean, you can't heel hook in the gi.
Okay.
Right? So you could try to foot lock, toe hold, but in a stage like that in the finals, I'm not tapping to that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to defend, I'm going to eat a
You're
little bit of
walking on
pressure.
one leg. Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
break that shit.
Yeah, so he pulled, and then, it was like, we were stuck there. He ended up winning 2-0 or something like that, But it was really cool to be in that moment, though. Right?
Hell yeah.
So then, fast forward a couple years, ADCC's in Brazil. And I get invited, obviously. I, made it to the podium in China, get invited, and then I tear my meniscus leading up to that tournament, right? I have someone kind of just land on my knee, hyperextended, and I'm still training through it. Like, my game plan, I'm still going to go. I don't care. So I'm still training, and for ADCC, we try to do like an 8-week camp, like 2 months, right? So I do about 3/4 of the camp, and it got so bad towards the end, like 3 weeks out, that whenever someone would push my heel towards the back of my thigh, my knee would lock. And it was just started getting really bad. And I remember one day I'm just like, what the hell am I doing? Like, my leg would get stuck for like 20, 30 minutes. I had to shake it out, you know?
Jesus.
So I was like, oh, man, I got to be realistic here. So I got to go see a doctor. Again, I never did jiu-jitsu for the money, right? I'm broke, dead broke, right? So I'm still under my mom's health insurance at this point. So I go to a doctor, and he's like, yeah, listen, man, like, your meniscus is torn, but you could also have some damage to your ACL. And if you keep training and if you really go compete, you could probably do more damage to your knee. And I'm like, all right, shoot, man, like, damn, that's not good. And he's like, I advise you do surgery ASAP. And he goes, we can do surgery on this date. The date fell after my birthday. So at that point, I was going to turn 26, I think. And at that point,
How old are you now?
I'm 34 now.
Okay.
I was going to get kicked off my mom's health insurance, I think, when I turned 20, something like that. Right?
Okay, wow.
Right? So I tell the
Time
doctor,
crisis.
I'm like, Doc, listen, man, like, I'm under my mom's health insurance. Can you get me in before September 2nd, which is my birthday? And I explained to him why. This, and he's like, all right, I got you.
Wow.
So he scheduled me earlier.
That's huge.
Yeah, he helped me out, man. He did me a solid. But I had to pull out of ADCC 2015.
Okay.
Yeah. And I remember when I reached out to the ADCC organization to let them know, like, hey, I got to pull out. I'm hurt. I'm sure they hear this all the time, like people pulling out because of injuries, whatever, but maybe they're just BSing, right? And they're like, all right, try to be more professional next time. I'm like, damn, man, like, I'm really hurt. Like, I'm not lying here, you know? Yeah, they don't mess around, man. They don't mess around. But, you know, it was legitimate. Like, I had knee surgery, and, you know, people saw, you know, that I had knee surgery. So they invited me back for 2017.
Oh,
yeah,
huge.
so they brought me back. But when they brought me back for 2017, that's when I had just – so I kind of skipped part of my story there. But at that point, I was living in California.
Okay.
So at that point, I had moved back to New York to open up
Where were you, in San Diego?
San Diego
At
Atos, yeah, with Andre Galval.
Uh-huh.
So at that point, 2017, I moved back to New York to open up my own academy. During my time out from knee surgery, you know, I came to a realization. I'm like, if I get hurt, how am I going to live? Like, how am I going to, you know, make money? How am I going to eat? I started thinking about these things. Now I was getting a little bit older. I was like, I got to open my own academy. I got to start, you know, building a business of my own and, you know, kind of planting my roots somewhere and plant my own flag. So I made the decision to move back to New York and open my own academy.
This is 16?
Around 2016, yeah.
Okay.
And I remember when
That's when I just started.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I'm looking up places, and your thing
Yeah.
had popped up. So keep
Nice.
going. Yeah,
Yeah, so-
Hartsdale.
Yep.
So I was actually going to another place in Hartsdale.
Really?
Yeah, it was called 914 Krav Maga.
Right down the street.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, I moved back to New York to open up the gym, and I had just opened up the gym. And in the beginning, like any business, it's a grind, right? And it's always going to be a grind. But in the beginning, it was a real grind because I was doing everything. I was teaching every class. I was cleaning. I was doing laundry. I was doing everything in the beginning. And I got the invite for ADCC 2017.
Shit.
And
How am I going to do all this shit?
yeah, exactly. So I remember talking to my wife about it. I'm like, what do you think? She was like, listen, just accept it and do your best. Do what you can. And I said, okay. So I did it. And that's when I linked up with John Marsh, right? Who ended up being my strength conditioning coach, my wrestling coach. He was up the street from me.
Where did he wrestle?
He wrestled at a school called Bridgewater.
Okay, yeah.
Out, I think it's PA or something like that.
Yeah.
He was actually a personal trainer at the gym, Total Form Fitness. I don't know if you remember that gym. It was up the block from my gym.
Okay, I don't remember.
So all these gyms that you trained at, where I was teaching, where he was running, training clients out of, was all on the same block, right?
Okay.
We're all meant to connect one day, right?
Yeah,
That's
100%.
So we linked up and we started training, working out. I started arranging my training camp for ADCC based off what I had. You know, the few students I had, a couple blue belts and purple belts, and I basically did a lot of Shark Tanks, which means I stay in the middle and people just rotate on me, right?
So you weren't like flying people in? I mean, not
No.
flying them, but you were just making do with.
Yeah.
You were just getting beat up. You were just getting
beat up, man.
Tag
Exactly.
teams.
Yep,
Wow.
Yep, exactly.
That's crazy.
Exactly.
Did you
And
pop into the city to these,
Nope. Did it all on my
Was
own.
that like a sketchy thing to do? Is there like a little espionage going down if you went to like, Danaher or
I think
Marcello's?
so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, especially at that point because like at Henzo's, like when the whole Danaher Death Squad was still in New York City, like Gary Tonin was a big competitor of mine. So he was
okay.
training. So I know they were going to let me come train. Marcelo, At that time, I think he had someone in my division too. Yeah, he had some of his students in my division, so I knew that was a no-go. Right. And then flying back to San Diego to train, which is out of the question because I had to run the business and teach classes. So I did it all.
Wow, you made something out of nothing, man.
Yeah, and I remember, man, it was such a grind that I remember going to sleep and just like saying, like, God, please let this be worth it, because this is a fucking grind, man. Like, it hurts. Like, my body hurts. I'm dead tired.
Stress as shit.
Yeah, man. So I go to Finland. It's in Finland this year in 2017. So I go to Finland. I remember telling myself before every single match, I don't know what's going to happen, but all I know is I'm going to go out there and fight as hard as I fucking can. That's what I kept telling myself over and over and over again.
It became your mantra.
Yeah, man. And listen, I think that's when I've had my best performances, when I don't put that pressure on myself. Like, I got to win. I just tell myself, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know one thing. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to fucking scrap hard, right? So I went out there and fought every match super hard, man. Yeah. And ended up winning. And in the finals, kind of like almost like a fairy tale story, right, if you want to call it that. In the finals, I fight this guy named Lucas Lepri. Lucas Lepri is a legend in the sport. He's like
is he the guy with the patch of hair that's like a different color? Is that who that is?
No. Who are you talking? I think I know who you're talking about. He's
interesting looking, if I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not.
No.
You're in the finals.
You're in
the finals.
He's got kind of cool hair, actually, Lucas. He's got like wavy hair, you know.
All right.
But we make it to the finals, and it was a tough match, man. It was a very tough match, and I beat him. I remember it was like a 30-minute match. We went overtime, and it was just a grind of a match, and I ended up winning. But, you know, a few years before that, I made it to the finals of the GI World Championships.
Okay.
Right? And this was 2014. When I made it to the GI finals of the Worlds, I remember walking out to the final match. They call you out. All right, Jonathan Torres. Which by my real name. Everyone just calls me JT. But Jonathan Torres, come out. Boom. They call me out. I'm like shitting my pants.
For the finals?
For the finals.
That's how they do it in the finals? Mat 4?
Well, it's one big. They put one big mat. So
but they call you like that informal kind of?
Yeah.
Wow,
they call you,
crazy.
step out, this and that. So I walk out. I remember just like shitting my pants. And prior to this moment, I beat Lucas before. I submitted him in Brazil. Like I
got this.
I know.
Had he beaten you?
He had beaten me too, but I beat him too, right? So it's like
it's a horse race, yeah.
Yeah. We step out into the finals, and I just freeze.
Ugh.
Beats my ass.
No way.
He beats my ass, right? He beats my ass, I think 14-0.
Oh God.
And I walk away devastated. I'm like, what happened there? Like, what happened, man? Like, up to that point, we've always had close matches. I actually submitted him before. Like, I know I can beat this guy. He's a legend of the sport. He's like a 6-time, 7-time world champion in the gi. I'm like, what the hell happened there, right? And I had to look in the mirror and realize that I wasn't there mentally. Right?
Okay.
It's just because the mental game is a huge part of the combat sport realm.
And more than any other sport. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So I wasn't ready for the moment. And it made me dive deep into, working on my mind and my confidence.
Sports psychology.
Yeah, 100%. Fast forward a few years later, we see each other in the finals of Finland, in the finals of the ADCC World Championships. And I was ready. Man. And I ended up winning my first ADCC World title against a legend.
Is
like
that
Lucas.
the year that you went for a single and then he went for the Kimura trap and then you got behind?
That's 2019, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. You've been studying my matches.
Just a little bit.
I like it, man. That's 2019. That's another good story, too.
Yeah, I want to hear that one.
In that match, in 2017 against Lucas, I shot a single. We scrambled out to towards the outer edge of the mat. In ADCC, you don't stop. Even if you go into the bleachers, you keep going until the ref stops you guys. Like, so you keep going. I let off the gas pedal just a little bit, and he spun out to my back. Right. So they walk us back into the center of the mat, and he has his hands around my waist. And I'm like, shit, man. Like, I can't lose this, man. I can't lose this here. This is my world title, right? In ADCC, there's a rule that you have to wait 3 seconds in that position before you can roll towards your back.
Okay.
Right? So if I would have rolled straight to my back, it would have counted as a takedown for him. Wow. Right? So Andre Galvao's in my corner, who's very experienced within the ADCC rule set and all that. So he tells me, JT, don't scramble out yet. Don't roll yet. Just be aware of the back. Protect the hooks. I'm hand fighting, protecting. Then he tells me, spin to your back. I spin to my back, and I scramble back up to my 2 feet, and I ended up taking him down or shooting a swoop single, getting out to his back, scoring my points off a back take. I got my 2 hooks in and ended up winning. So experience plays a huge part in winning a tournament like ADCC because the rules are difficult to understand sometimes. But when you have that experience,
you're hand fighting, and then you're thinking, okay, I have to count to 3 before I can do this.
Exactly.
And then you're trying to focus.
You need a good coach.
You need a good coach in your
insane.
corner too who understands the rules.
You must have no ADD, because I have ADD, he has ADD, and I think all the time, like, that's too much focus for me.
Man. You gotta be locked in. It's funny though. I can only get focused and locked in with jiu-jitsu though.
Gotta lock in.
It's
Nothing
tough.
else.
Dude, it's so tough for me to do anything else. Like if I sit down and try to read a book, I'm like, like I start looking up YouTube videos on jiu-jitsu or whatever. Like it's hard for me to focus on anything else. But yeah, that was how I came about winning my first ADCC world title.
That's amazing.
And what made it even that much better was that I did it. I don't want to say on my own because obviously I had people in my corner, even the guys out in San Diego still supported me and sending me advice and stuff like that. But really,
bare bones, like no resources, no help. Yeah.
But what really helped me push myself too was also thinking that it's more than just about me now, right? Where prior to that, I was always just a member of a team, right?
Yeah,
Where
now you're head
now
honcho.
I'm a gym owner.
Yeah.
I have my own team. I have my own academy. I have a group of people I want to inspire.
Hell yeah.
So when I went out there, I fought that much harder because of that. So
big ups to your wife who is supporting you.
yeah,
and pushing you. That's
100%,
awesome,
man, 100%, and it that played a role in it too, and also motivation, man. I remember when I announced that I was leaving San Diego to move to New York to open my own gym. People, the internet always has something to say.
They're the worst, dude.
Always has something to say. Positive, but mostly negative a lot, right?
Yeah.
People love
those people aren't even real people.
No.
Those people are trolls.
Yeah, 100%,
they really are.
100%. But I remember people talking like, "Oh man, wrong decision. JT Torres' competitive career is over." Over. I remember reading that. Someone said, "Your competitive career is over. Just pack it up." I
Wow.
was like, all right, motherfucker. Next year, what do? I win the biggest tournament there is in the world.
That's so
Yeah,
sick.
find
dude.
that guy.
Yeah,
you come see me.
Exactly.
I got something for you.
Exactly.
Dude, that's incredible. I honestly, like, just hearing that story, like, I a lot of times in my life have gotten into something and then not had that drive to finish out. And so I just like to commend you and give you all the respect in the world because
Thanks,
we talked about this on the phone. Jiu-jitsu is the perfect analogy for when you're good, there's somebody better.
100%.
And like to be sitting here next to you and like hear that story, it's so incredibly inspiring.
Thank you, man.
And like it's fucking sick.
How
dude.
often
Appreciate it, man.
now
Thank
are you
you.
rolling around with someone and you're like, this guy just worked me?
Not too often.
Is there someone you can go and see and you're like,
Yeah,
who's obviously there's bigger guys, so I'm sure
100%.
that's
Not to sound cocky or whatever it is, but I always, like I told you guys earlier, I'm always training.
Yeah.
Like I'm always training.
that's
like,
a huge positive.
I'm at this point in my life, I'm 34. I'll be 35 this
September.
year, right? Yeah, I guess you can consider me old for a combat athlete, right? But I'm still doing my thing. But what I'm trying to say is that my goal nowadays is to improve.
Okay.
Always improve, right? So people have goals like I want to win this, I want to win that, which at certain times of your life you should have those goals, right? Now, at this point in my life, my goal is to improve and keep getting better, stay active, stay in shape. 1, so I can teach my students better. 2, so I can train with them. And 3, so I can still kick some ass.
Are
when I
you a
have to,
competitor or a coach right now?
That's a really good question, man. I'm going to fork in the road right now where my gym is growing. It's growing. So we moved from Hartsdale, right? We have a small location
To
there.
a beautiful state-of-the-art, sick new spot. I've seen some photos.
Yeah, almost 10,000 square feet now.
Wow.
We have big programs all across the board, from the kids to the adults. And now we're at a point where I'm 7 years into running my gym, right? So there's some kids that have been with me since the beginning. So now they're at a point where, man, these kids are killing it. They're crushing it, man. I have kids flying around the world competing now.
You must be proud.
I'm super proud, man. Super proud. So now I'm starting to see that my role of a coach, as a professor, whatever you want to call it, is really coming to play.
Did you coach PJ Duke?
He used to come by when he was younger to do jiu-jitsu.
Okay, yeah, he went to my old wrestling club.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, Empire, yeah.
Yeah, he actually came by a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And he's definitely different from when I trained with him when he was a kid. Now he's like 16, 17, getting ready to go to Penn State.
Yeah. He's
Savage,
a monster.
man.
Yeah.
Savage.
Yeah.
But I used to help him out with jiu-jitsu a little bit.
Okay.
I did. He came by a couple times.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely not.
I'm gonna go home. So, one thing that I deal with in my life is we talk about this mix of passion and profession.
Yep.
And I mix those two things.
Yep.
My passion is for cars, and it's
Yep.
also our profession.
Cool.
So you were passionate about jiu-jitsu and a competitor,
Yeah.
and then you turned it into a profession.
Yeah.
What has that been like for you? And have you seen, like we talked a little bit about burnout on the phone, have you seen
yeah.
any burnout, and like how do you combat that? So three kind of separate
And
questions.
are you compromising your passion to make it your profession at all?
I don't feel like I'm compromising it at all, just because I'm doing what I love to do as far as coaching, teaching, and training all at the same time, right? I am very lucky, though, to have – so my wife helps me run the gym. So she is the mastermind, if you will, behind the business side of things, right?
Okay.
Obviously, I'm involved, but
She's the boss?
she's the boss, man. She's the boss.
I get it,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah. I'm the boss on the
don't.
mats, though, right? So, which allows me not to compromise my passion, right? Where if I had
So you could be the artist,
exactly,
and she can be the business person.
exactly. So,
That's cool.
Yeah, and I had really good advice when I first set out to open my business. Someone gave me a good piece of advice. They told me, don't be afraid to bring people on because you need a good team around you. You can't do everything by yourself.
That's tough to let go to control.
And it's tough to let go, right? But little by little, I built a really good team around me, which allows me to do what I love to do, right? Which is jiu-jitsu, teaching, training, and coaching. So I'm still doing what I love to do. So running the gym hasn't compromised that. And that's because I have a good team around me. As far as burnout, burnout is definitely a real thing, man. It's a real thing. People always say, I train every day, 5 times a day, all year round. Bullshit. Impossible.
Yeah.
You can't do it. You can't do it. I heard a really good quote, like rest is part of the equation of success, right? You got to get that rest in. And it was a hard lesson for me to learn. I remember 19, 20-year-old JT would never rest. And I would never even dare of thinking of resting, right? And if I did rest, I felt like a bitch. I would have these like inner conversations with myself, like
I'm gonna be resting all the time now.
yeah, like you're
I'm gonna do nothing
bitch.
but sleep.
Yeah, you're a bitch, man. You're a bitch. But
David Goggins style.
yeah. But if I think back to that time, I was constantly sick and injured. But being 19 years old, you can push through that kind of
Hell
stuff,
yeah.
and bounce back, and work through certain injuries. As I got older, I started realizing, man, like you gotta rest. You gotta have a good balance of it. I learned that from Andre Gabal. When I moved to San Diego just to train jiu-jitsu, he would have his schedule set up where mid-week he would have like an active rest day, which was new to me. Up to that point, I trained Monday through Saturday. Sunday, I would maybe chill for a little bit and then get right back to the mats on Monday.
But you'd run or you'd lift.
Yeah. Exactly, right? And he had it set up where midweek was like an active rest day. And I was like, what's going on? But I understood it because you could train better by resting, right?
100%.
So, for example, we would train hard on a Tuesday, have an active rest on a Wednesday. I would come back and be able to train hard on a Thursday. So it made a lot of sense to me. I'm like, you can get more out of your training if you throw a little bit of rest in there. If you're just training, pushing straight through, 2-3 days in, you're training like dog shit. Like you're not even getting good reps in probably. Your technique's probably off because you're feeling lazy, you're tired. But when you throw some rest in there, it makes a huge difference. So burnout's real, man. And I've definitely have had burnout myself. I would never forget. There was one tournament I made it to the finals of. It was Nogi Worlds. Made it to the finals, and I lost in a really, sus referee call, right? And I remember thinking to myself, like, I worked so hard to get to this point, and a ref can just screw me over like this. I said, fuck this shit, man. I'm done. Like, I hate this. And I knew I was just burnt out, man. Like, just training, no rest. And then you have like a heartbreak like that. It sets you off to the wrong path. And I took a little bit of time off. And when I say time off, it was like 3 days.
A week, yeah.
4 days, a week, then, and then I was right back to it. But I've definitely had my moments of burnout. But I always make sure to give myself that me time too.
Yeah.
You need that me time, not just physically, but more importantly, mentally too.
Yeah.
Right? You need to just get away.
You got to mix in the water, man.
Yeah, exactly, man. Not think about anything. Sit in the sauna for a little bit.
That's
You know,
it,
just
brother.
chill out, relax. Try to read a book. I can't read a book, but try
Yeah,
to.
somebody else can.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know we both have like 1,000 more questions for you.
Yeah, I got 3 rapid fire ones that I kind of want to
do
hit you with, and then I want to do a quick segue. So,
Sure.
who's got the best jiu-jitsu, America or Brazil? Who is it?
Ooh, really good question. Rapid. So, okay. Can I
Yeah,
break it up
rapid.
in 2 different things?
Sure.
America. Actually, America, man.
All right.
America.
USA,
Yeah.
baby.
What UFC fighters have you trained with?
Dominic Cruz, Gilbert Burns. I know there's a few more in there. Randy Brown. Randy Brown's been coming down to my gym. He just had a vicious knockout the other day.
Any celebrities?
That I've trained with? No, I don't think so.
He's
Not
a
yet.
celebrity, man.
He is a celebrity.
And the third one?
No,
I'm losing. I had the third one. It was the best
What's your,
one.
what's your favorite car?
my favorite car. I'm a huge fan of the M3s.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get the segue?
What? Yeah. So it was kind of like going towards that way. So like I know you're kind of like you have a lot of interests outside
Yeah.
of jiu-jitsu. Like I know I've
Yeah.
seen your little like fashion page you kind of
Yeah,
got
yeah,
going
yeah,
on.
yeah.
You're into the streetwear. I
Yeah,
see like
yeah.
all your merch is very
Thank you.
streetwear inspired. I saw that
And
palace
likewise.
looking.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Likewise.
The palace looking hoodie.
Yeah.
That's a cool, almost like Supreme portrait type
Yeah,
look.
exactly. This is actually the old gym, Hartsdale gym. The
Sick.
stairs up to the gym.
Where did you kind of pick that up and you know, what else are you into? Are you into cars? Like, what are your other kind of interests?
So I do like cars. I like fashion. But my dad was always a huge influence in my life, obviously, right? Being around him so much and him taking me up and down the East Coast for tournaments and this and that. So we spent a lot of time together growing up as a kid. But he's always big on always looking good. Always
Okay.
looking good. And then cars, he's always loved cars, right? So my dad grew up in Puerto Rico. And him and his dad owned a trucking business in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So they used to drive 18-wheelers, you know, all across the island, delivering goods and stuff like that. So my dad's always enjoyed the sound
Hell yeah.
of 18-wheelers. Like, till this day,
Wow.
my dad will sit down on his computer with headphones on.
No way.
And I swear to God, and watch YouTube videos on the sounds of the engine of an 18-wheeler. Like, that's how much he's passionate about
Wow.
it. It's amazing, yeah.
It's like sleeping with a white noise machine for him.
Yeah, that's what he loves that. And like, you know, being around him as a kid, like I grew to love the sound of an engine. I'm like, whoa, yeah, I like it, you know. He knows his things about cars. He's really into it. Again, he was a truck driver for a long time, but I've always just loved the sound of a nice sounding
Hell yeah.
engine. You know, I always appreciated it. So, yeah, you know, I've always enjoyed cars. And I remember when I first fell in love with a car, I think it was the BMW M3,
Okay.
the Mercedes C63. Like,
Hell
I
yeah.
fell in love with it, right? And I always told myself, one day I'll have one. One day I'll have one. And actually, it's kind of a funny story, a story full of regret too. So I competed in ADCC this last one, right?
Okay.
Didn't have a good performance whatsoever. And I chalked that up to, you know, one, having really good opponents. Never taking anything away. Having really good opponents out there is the best tournament there is in the world. But there was a layoff I had because of COVID. You know, I didn't compete for a couple of years. Kind of threw me off my game. But prior to that, I bought myself a C63.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was driving around a C63. You
Big
know, I was
problem.
worked hard,
Big
you know,
problem.
I was driving around. You know, I'm hyped on it. I compete. I lost, and I was like, man, I'm pissed. Like, I'm pissed, right? And I'm so crazy that I'm like, I need to punish myself, man. What do I do? I sell my car.
Living that good life too much, man.
shit.
It'll get you.
I sold my car, and I bought like a little Jeep to drive around for a little bit. And like a year into the driving the Jeep, I'm like, what the hell am I doing, man? And that's when I got the car that you guys saw me.
Sick.
Yeah, but yeah, you know,
Very nice car, by the way.
thank you, man. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's a fun car. But yeah, I've always enjoyed cars. A nice sound to it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, yeah, man.
So we have one last thing for you.
Yeah.
Did you tell me you were into gaming a little bit?
I am into gaming.
Okay, so you're the first to do this new segment.
Okay.
Have you ever seen the Grand Tour?
Oh, give us 1 minute.
Let's restart that.
Wait, well, really quick. So
Yeah.
before we get into this next thing, do you have anything you want to plug? Any of your own projects?
So, I mean, everyone can find me on Instagram at JTorresBJJ. You guys can also follow my Jiu-Jitsu Academy, Essential Jiu-Jitsu, on Instagram. I
You have the online class?
I also have an online website and an app now. We revamped it. It's really good. Where basically we film everything that goes on in the gym on a day-to-day basis, and we put it on the internet, right, on our website. And not just classes, but even behind-the-scenes kind of things, too. So people get a really good feel of the gym and what goes on inside of the gym.
Cool.
And that's Essential Jiu-Jitsu Online. Check it out. You guys will really enjoy it.
Awesome, man. This is the first of a new segment where we have our guests try to set the fastest possible time on Mario Kart Deluxe 8. So JT Torres, welcome here. Press A.
Supposed to be a big gamer.
Let's see. Here we go.
All right, let's go. All right.
There we go. So there is the ghost. All right,
That's
so
the ghost?
That is who you have to
Is
try
that
to
the ghost
beat.
of Elvis?
That's the ghost of Elvis.
All right.
All right, another tip not a lot of people know. Coins actually make you go faster. So if you get 10 coins, you will be at your fastest possible speed.
But question for you.
Yes.
Would that be a bad thing sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all gas, no brakes, brother. You also have 3 mushrooms up there.
I like it.
Coming up on
Look
these
at that.
turns.
Look at that.
Now, what games do you usually play?
I'm a huge Call of Duty player.
All right,
It's a
cool.
violent guy. We got
I'm
here.
dude, combat sports, baby. So as I'm playing this here, I was actually so into Call of Duty that during the time that we were at home during the pandemic, I bought a gaming PC.
Oh, shit.
I went all in.
Yeah, that's how you know you're serious.
Yeah, I got really serious, man.
How long has it been since you played around a Mario Kart?
Man, I don't know. It's been years, man. But I got to say, I go back to the Super Nintendo days when I was a kid, man.
You're not doing bad.
This
Yeah,
right
you're
up
doing
my
good.
alley right here, man.
Just remember those mushrooms.
Oh,
Attaboy.
didn't need that.
Hey.
There you go.
Oh, look at that. That's a neat little, yeah.
All right, you got one more lap
Let's go.
around.
We got this. We're doing well. Setting the bar high here for you guys. Where's Elvis at? Where's the ghost at? Is he behind me somewhere?
I think he's a bit ahead of you. Actually, I gotta tell you, JT.
Oh,
Come on, man.
I'm getting nervous.
Finish it up. Finish it strong.
Oh my God. It's like I'm back in the finals of ADCC right now, man.
Yeah. All right. See if we can get you under 2 minutes.
Let's go.
You're close. Come on.
Look at that.
There you go. Well done, brother.
All
Well
right,
done.
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That was great.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome conversation. We could have done this for hours.
Yeah. We're going to actually, I would love to have you back, honestly, and talk about a lot
Yeah.
more stuff.
I got a lot more stories.
All
man.
right, sweet.
It's been a pleasure to be here with you guys today. Thank you.
So
guys for having me.
I'm Mikey, my brother Jojo. Thank you for joining us today on the podcast. Follow us at J&B Body Works, and stay tuned for the next one, guys.